I said, where's the war songs? In fact, I ask anybody to produce me a Jewish war song. I lived all my life, the Jew was prophet killer. The Jew killed Jesus. The Jews spread mad cow disease. The Jews put infertility drugs for the Palestinians so they don't have children. The Jews caused tsunamis. The Jews causing earthquake on the Temple Mount. The Jews run the Congress. The Jews run the media. In fact, you think this happens only in Palestine. It happens in the heartland of America here. I was in Chicago demonstrating with the rest of the Muslim Arabs. Who runs the Congress? And the response is Israel. Who runs the media? Israel. In fact, even the MSA. We don't hate Jews, we hate Zionism. But in their demonstration, Khaybar, Khaybar, ya Yahud, Jaysh Muhammad sawfa ya'ud. Jews, we remind you of Khaybar. The army of Muhammad is coming back to haunt you, to get you. It's talking about the slaughter of the Jews. In fact, the first time I heard a moderate Muslim, I was excited. Los Angeles, Hanukkah, no, Yom Kippur, the largest synagogue in Los Angeles. I was a speaker there, I talked, and there was a moderate Muslim, I was excited. Mr. Jasser Judah Jasser, doctor, he's hated by many Muslims too. He finished his speech, I asked him, I said, Mr. Jasser, I have a problem. Here's the question I have for you. It was a private question, I asked him privately. I said, did the Prophet of Islam kill the Jews of Banu Qurayda? Did he not expel the Jews of Banu Qaynuqa and Banu Nadir? He said, yes. I said, how do you justify it? How do you justify it? It's a problem. He says, well, they had a fair trial. I said, excuse me? They had a fair trial? Yeah, they had a fair trial. I said, why is it that the West began to know that the Jews didn't have a fair trial? Why is it that even the Pope tried to make amends? He goes to Israel, he even prays at the Wailing Wall. Why is it that the whole world began to realize that Jews didn't really have a fair deal? Why is it only in us, amongst us Arabs and Muslims, that the Jews had a fair trial? Where do you go to an Arab culture or Arab society or Arab country and see maybe books on the Holocaust or books on the Jewish plight? Where do you see in the universities, even here in America, in which they talk about what happened to the Jews, not by Nazi Germany. Forget Nazi Germany, because it's time I criticize the Jews as well. Because the Jewish communities in America, they like to have Holocaust museums. Holocaust museums galore. You know, Holocaust this, the Holocaust that. They try to pick on the dead Nazis. Nazism's gone, Hitler's dead. But they keep forgetting about fighting today's Nazis. Because when you're nervous, like I am right now, you must be doing something controversial. You must be getting a lot of heat. If you have heat in your life, you must be doing a job. But if you're in your comfort zone, you're doing nothing. Because to struggle in life is to face the heat, is to say that the problem with my culture and the problem with my society is not an occupation of land. It's an occupation of the mind of millions of young children. Because it wasn't Israeli bullets that killed my cousin Ra'id. It was the religious institution in the Middle East, from Al-Azhar University, from a Muslim Brotherhood, from all the apparatus. You have 400 Islamic terrorist organizations. 90% of them are Muslim. It's not the issue of occupation of land. Because Islamic fundamentalism rose by the founding fathers of the Muslim Brotherhood in 1928, way before the establishment of the State of Israel. Who created the state called Israel? It was our hatred that created that state. We hated them, not just in the West, but also in the East. 850,000 Jews expelled from the Middle East, from Muslim societies, and the universities don't want to even talk about it. 2 divisions out of the Nazi war machine of 8 divisions were Muslim fundamentalists. The Khanzar division, the Albanian division, they were horrific. In fact, I get the argument all the time that Hitler was not a Muslim. Hitler expounded his views on Christianity to a visiting delegation of Arabs discussing the implications of the battles of Tours. Hitler held forth, had the Arabs won the battle, the world would be Muhammadan today. For theirs was a religion that believed in spreading the faith by the sword and subjugating all nations to that faith. The Germanic peoples would have become heirs to that religion. Such a creed was perfectly suited to the Germanic temperament. And this is a quote by Albert Speer inside the Third Reich. There was a connectivity between Islamic fundamentalism and Nazism. In fact, even I was going to school in high school. We learned the Umar Declaration, the treatment of non-Muslims in a Muslim culture. Jews must wear a yellow patch under Islam, and they did. You look at the Khalifa al-Mutawakkil, instituted the yellow patches for the Jews. Harun al-Rashid, hailed as a moderate, issued decrees that Jews must wear yellow patches on their right shoulder. Jews must never be judges in a Muslim court. Jews must never enter a Muslim bathhouse. Jews must never ride a horse but must ride a donkey. Jews must pay jizya taxation by an upper hand in accordance to the Quran. حتى يدفعوا الجزية عن يد وهم صاغرون. That they pay the Jews pay the jizya by an upper hand. May they be belittled and may they be subjugated. Same thing with Nazis. Jews must never enter into a German restaurant. Jews must never be a judge over a German court, must never adopt German kids, must pay double the taxation from Germans pay. Because Americans think that Islam as a Sharia is simply a religion, like any other religions. Islam is simply a religion. In fact, yesterday I was on the radio and a Muslim caller called in to object to my speech. And he began to rant. He began to say, well, Islam, Sharia Islam, has to mandate establishing Islamic Sharia law all throughout the whole universe. Islamic Sharia law is a constitution. Can any Muslim tell me that Sharia is not a constitution? It is a constitution. They had a caliphate. Khalifa is the vicar of Muhammad, the prophet. It was dismantled in 1924. 1928, I never got to finish that point. In 1928, the Muslim Brotherhood was founded. And then you had an attempt all this time from the Wahhabists and the Muslim Brotherhood to erect the caliphate back. This is why you have suicide bombing, not just in Israel. This is why you have suicide bombing all over the world. This is why you have suicide here in America. You have suicide, this kind of thing. Islam prohibits suicide. And the caller says, oh, Islam prohibits suicide. But Al-Azhar University of Egypt issued a fatwa. Yeah, suicide is not permitted in Islam. But suicide is permitted only in the condition if it happens in the Israeli areas. Sheikh Yassin with Yasser Arafat were walking down the street one time, and they ran into Osama bin Laden. And Osama bin Laden was having a hard day. He says, I'm trying to find a hole. You know, they just caught Saddam Hussein. He's hiding in a hole, and I'm hiding in a similar hole, and I'm trying to hide. And I don't know where to go. I'm doing the same things you guys are doing. You get a state. I get hunted down by the Americans. It's not fair. I'm doing the same thing you're doing. Yes, Arafat looked at him and says, you fool. We're only killing Jews. We are only killing Jews. Can one man be right and millions wrong? Yes. Winston Churchill, by American connection, was right. He was half Scottish. He was wise. He was hated in the parliament. He said Nazi Germany is not about just land. They want to take over the whole world. He was called a Nazi-phobe. Lady Astor in the parliament says Winston Churchill, said, Winston Churchill, I hate you. I hate you so much, if I was your wife, I will put poison in your tea. He said, ma'am, if I was your husband, I'd gladly drink it. As soon as I finish, my critics are going to criticize me for all sorts of things. But the question is, to my critics, are you fighting the real terrorist? Are you fighting the real racist? Are you fighting the anti-Semites? Are you fighting Osama bin Laden? Or are you simply fighting the Islamophobes like myself? Is CAIR moderate? Is Council of American Islamic Relations moderate? Is the American Muslim Council moderate? You'll find libraries of their statements. You'll find much arrests of them being terrorists, thrown in jail for their terrorist connection, funding, raising funds, and calling for the destruction of America. In fact, they clearly said that Islam in America is not here to be a mere religion. Abdul Rahman al-Amoudi and everybody else within his cohorts, but Islam is here to be the dominating religion. It is my duty as an American to speak out and to fight for this country, for my mother's heritage, for my Judeo-Christian heritage. I am the American. I am the one who is hated now. I am the one who's being hunted now. I am the one who has to live under an assumed name while they all live freely. I am the one who's being criticized. They would just love to sue you so you can just keep your mouth shut. Vigilance is the cost for freedom. Without vigilance, there is no freedom. And this whole thing with appeasement is the process of feeding the alligator, praying he eats you last. You pray they eat the Saturday people first and the Sunday people next, then you can wait. But in the meanwhile, I will fight. Thank you very much.